Greetings viewers, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Scalarworks Leap 8 mount as well as the kick offset mount. We're going to end up in this configuration here. What we're going to do is we are going to first do an unboxing of both of those items, and then I'm going to show you how to mount the scope to it so you can get it attached to your rifle. So before we begin, I just want to point out and make sure that you are in fact using the correct equipment for the job at hand here. So again, there are two different mounts. There is the Leap 8 and the Leap 9. The instructions that I'm going to show you will work for both. However, there is a difference in both of those because the 8 is for 30mm tubes. So that's the size of this tube right here. And the 9 is for 34mm tubes. Before you dive into this project, make sure that you have the correct stuff. If you have too big of a scope and you have small rings, you're going to crush the scope. If the rings are too big, your scope's going to flop around in there and it's not going to work. So again, make sure you have the correct equipment before you go ahead and start this project. So without further ado, again, we're going to jump into the unboxing and then I'm going to show you how to get the scope mounted. All right, so as usual, let's go ahead and take a look at what we get with our packaging here. We'll start with the Leap 08 mount. So standard Scalarworks packaging, got their name on the front, logos on the side, name on the back, and then just the specific model information here. Again, this is the 1.57 inch height variant. The front of the box, if you look here, is magnetized, so it flips up and then peels open. So we've got our mount. So we've just got this little bifold card in here. It's got a QR code that's the actual user's manual. They don't print out a booklet. It's made in the USA. Lifetime warranty. It does come with a driver bit in here. It is a Torx T25. If for whatever reason your packaging didn't come with one, but you happen to have one of those, that's what size you would need. So it does come sealed in here. It has a, looks like the plastic is already ripped and damaged because I did not open that. I don't know if that was damaged or intentionally supposed to be open, but you can see what the bit looks like here. Let's go ahead and open the mount. So it doesn't look like they give you any sort of cheater tabs on here, so you're just supposed to go barbarian mode on this thing to open it. And then we've got our mount. It is clearly labeled on here 20 inch-pounds for those screws, so there is no Google searching or looking around trying to figure out what the settings are for that. Got the access point for our leveling screw here, which we'll go over when we do the installation of the scope. This thing is extremely light. Let me grab the scale real quick. All right, so we got our scale zeroed out in ounces here. 5.4 ounces, or 154 grams. And that is super light. That doesn't include the scope, obviously, but that is not going to add a lot of weight to your weapon. In addition to the scope. So let's set this aside and open up the Kick 02 mount. This is for the RMR Offset Mark II, and this is the right-hand side. So this is basically ambidextrous. This channel cut out here where it's going to attach, you can get a right-hand side or a left-hand side mount for it. So obviously I chose the right-hand side. Same exact packaging as the larger box, just in a smaller scale. We've got our mount. Looks like we've got a couple things in here. Same bifold card as before with the QR code for the user's manual and information. We've got a T15 bit in here that isn't really marked for what it's for. We've got a T20 bit in here. And then we've got the Trijicon RMR/SRO screws. So one of those is going to go for mounting these, and then one's going to go for mounting this. Same thing, no cheater tabs on here, so we're just going to have to peel it open. Wow, this is super light. This almost feels like plastic. So we're looking at 20 grams or 0.7 ounces, and that's the mount with the screws that look like they already have some red Loctite on them. So we would undo these to then reattach them for mounting them, which we'll do in just a moment. Then we've got our little standoffs here that are going to hold our armbar in place. And so that's what we've got. All right, so for the mounting demonstration today, we're just going to start with the scope. The scope that we're putting on there is this Vortex Razor Gen 2 1:6. So the first thing we have to do before we can put our scope in here is we have to take these 4 screws out. These openings here are hinged instead of the tops coming off. They just swing from the side. They are captured with the hinge again. So first we're going to undo these. I am going to use the T25 bit that they gave us with my fix-it stick handle. These screws should already have red Loctite on them, so we don't need to add anything. We're just going to set those to the side. We flip this over to the other side. It's going to be a little tight, but you're going to have to pop those out. Now the way this goes in there, these screws are going to go on your left-hand side, and this is going to kind of arc forward. So your scope is actually going to go in this way. We're going to close these 2 swinging arms, and we're going to go ahead and reattach the screws. We are not tightening them down. All we're doing is we are getting them in place and letting those threads catch. What I like to do is I'll spin it backwards first just to make sure the threads drop in so that we're not cross-threading anything. As soon as I feel any sort of resistance, I'm stopping. Because we got to make sure this thing is leveled before we tighten these screws down. And then the scope is in the right place with your eye relief. All right, so like I said, I tightened the screws down until I just barely felt any resistance. So my scope still has room to kind of wiggle and move. So right now, what I would recommend that you do, we've got that in there again, we've got some movement, we've got some wiggle, is I would go ahead and mount this to your rifle and kind of get a nice cheek weld and figure out your eye relief and where you actually want this mounted on the rifle, because in your mind, the place you may think you wanted to put it, it's not going to work, so you're going to have to shift it up maybe 1 or 2 spots or shift it back. So I would go ahead and put it on there. This is tight enough that it will hold its position once you get it slid into place. So again, put it on your rifle, find your eye relief, figure out where you want the mount and or where you want this scope slid. Now, you're going to get people that are going to argue with you. Well, they'll argue with me. Someone maybe comment on this video and say that I'm doing it wrong. There's a screw here on the bottom that we are going to tighten up. It's the leveling screw, and it's going to go against the flat base on the bottom of these turrets here, and we're going to use that to make sure our scope is flat and level with the mount. Now, this video is from SHOT Show. This is when Scalarworks revealed their Leap 8 and Leap 9 mounts at SHOT Show. So this is at their booth. This is one of their reps showing it off. Now you can see this ring right here is pushed all the way forward, and it's butting up against the back here. You'll have people that will say that these 2 mounting positions need to be even so that you have an even spacing here before and after your turret, and that's what you need to base it on. You can still, if you do that, your leveling screw will still reach, it'll still be functional. But again, this is where it's going to depend on you and your eye relief and where you want it shifted, where the mount is on the gun and where the scope is going to be slid. So I would base it off of that. As long as your leveling screw makes contact with this flat surface here and you do this properly, it doesn't matter how you mount it on there. Whatever, I'm sure if you call Vortex, they're going to tell you it has to be done this way. If you call Scalarworks, they're going to tell you it has to be done the other way. I don't know. I haven't talked to them. So mount it how it's going to work for you. As long as you don't use the wrong size mount and you don't go crazy with the torque spec here, tightening this down, you're not going to cause damage to your scope and it's going to work just fine. Anyway, now that we've got that out of the way, I am going to move this all the way far forward. I want that leveling screw closer to center here, and this is how I want it mounted for me. So if you're screaming at your screen telling me I'm doing it wrong, I'm going to keep doing it anyway, so prepare to be disappointed. All right, so we are going to take our T25, we're going to flip this over, and we are going to tighten this red screw down. We're not going crazy, we're just finger turning it until we make contact with the bottom of the scope. We're just trying to get it up there. It's not immediate. If we tighten this down, that's not what's going to flatten this out. What we need to do is we need to actually grab the mount in one hand and the scope in the other, and we're going to kind of wiggle it, and you're going to feel there's wiggle to it. We're going to tighten the screw up some more to it. We're going to kind of wiggle it back and forth. We're going to tighten the screw down a little more. We're going to wiggle it back and forth. Each time you do this, there should be less and less and less wiggle until you get to the point where there's no wiggle here. So now we've gotten that wiggle out, we're flat, that screw is flush up against the bottom of the scope. We now have our position where we want it, forward or backward. We're ready to put our 20 inch-pounds of pressure on these screws. So I'm going to gently set this down without knocking anything out of place. I've got my fix-it stick torque limiter here that I'm going to put on my driver. I'm putting my T25 on here. We've now got this giant Frankenstein creation. If you're not familiar with fix-it sticks, this isn't a set it and it automatically does the work for you. If you just have a torque wrench, set it to 20 inch-pounds, turn it till it clicks. This one, I have to visually watch this line go all the way to the 20. So I'm going to kind of try and keep this in frame here while I crane my head around to make sure I can see it. All right, so again, whether you're using a torque wrench and you've got it set to 20 inch-pounds or you're visually watching this and stopping when you get to the 20 inch-pound line on your torque limiter, or however you're doing it, make sure you're following the instructions that are clearly printed right here that say 20 inch-pounds. Now, our scope is done. We need to back the leveling screw off. We don't want to leave it up against the scope. It may be a little tight, so I've got to use my T-handle here to back it off. And we're just going to back it out till it's back to being level with the top here so we can't see it by looking through the gap between the scope and the mount. Again, we don't want that up against the scope, rattling, creating any sort of issues, rubbing, causing damage later on to the scope, so we're just getting it out of the way. That's all it's used for, is just mounting it and getting into position for you. So our scope is now mounted to the mount. Now we're ready to add our kick offset mount. All right, so the bit that goes with the screws on the kick mount is a T20, so this is the one that came in the packaging with it. The other one is for the screws that actually mount the optic to your mount. So we're just going to undo these. Again, they already have a glob of red Loctite on them, so we don't have to do anything there. So this is the way the scope is supposed to face on your rifle. Bruh. So the large end goes in the back towards your eyeball and the skinny tube goes forward. So since this is a right-hand mount, it's going to go on the right-hand side in this orientation. So we took the screws out. All right, so since the mount is going to go in on this side, our screws are going on the other side. And if you look, you can see the way the heads are shaped. If I were to just drop it down in this channel, they just go down in there and that's how they hold. So there's no other plate, there's nothing that goes on this side. All we're doing is running the screws in this side, keeping them from falling out, and our mount's going to come in from the other side and mate up with them that way. So however you can hold this and configure it and get it to start where these screws are in place like that. So I'm just going to hold it like this. I've got two fingers holding the mount on the other side. I'm just going to take this and try and get these screws started. Again, I spin them to the left first until they catch in the threads. And then once I'm confirmed that it's caught and it's good, it's not cross-threaded, I'm just going to start tightening by hand. I'm not going crazy with it. And then I'm going to drop my second one in and do the same thing. All right, now so once you get the red Loctite glob to the connecting threads, it is going to start to get a little tight, but once you'll have enough knowledge ahead of time to know that they're not cross-threaded, so once you hit that, you're going to have some resistance, so doing it just by finger isn't going to probably work anymore. My fix-it sticks don't have a specific delineation on them for 30 inch-pounds. My fat torque wrench does, so I've already gone ahead and set it to 30 inch-pounds, and I'm just going to use that to drive these screws in. I'm just going to give it a couple turns on each one and then switch to the other. All right, so once we've got it to the point where we've got some like it's not just resistant from the globs of Loctite, we're up against metal. I'm just looking to make sure we're not snagged on anything, there's nothing bound up, we're straight into the slot where it's supposed to be. So I'm ready to go ahead and torque this down. I'm already set to 30 inch-pounds, so we're just going to turn it until this thing clicks. And then the other one. And we're mounted. That's all it takes. And then we can go ahead and mount our optic. Again, they make different versions of this, so maybe you have an Acro, you have something else. I'm going to be putting an RMR HD on here. It's going to be as simple as just put the optic on there and then again torque the two screws down to whatever the torque spec setting is for that. And then I've got to get this thing mounted to the rifle and take it out to the range and do some shooting. So let me know what you think. If I missed anything, if you have any questions, something I didn't cover, Please feel free to leave me a comment down below if you want to tell me I'm wrong for how I mounted this on here or told other people they could do it. Please feel free to let me know down below. But anyways, with that, I'll stop taking up your time. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you in the next video.